Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started now, guys. This is Hayden Tough's second to last Chalk Talks this year, and we're lucky we have Shanika Randle with us, and she's a high school coach currently in near the San Antonio area. Was it Smithson Valley?
Yes, sir.
Smithson Valley. And I thought one of the things that's really unique is that she has both, college playing experience, college coaching experience, and also high school coaching experience. So that's really unique to see, the broad range of what's there and kind of have an understanding of, that recruiting process. She's also a teacher at the high school as well. And she's busy with quite a few other things. I know that you coached some other sports. Obviously, you were a multi-sport athlete back in your day. But we're going to kind of run through the introduction here and kind of go through our typical agenda tonight, and then we'll leave the last 15 minutes for Q&A for the group.
Okay.
So, introductions. How would you introduce yourself, Shanika?
Honestly, I'm just a girl from small town Mississippi that gets to do what she loves every day. I love math. I majored in math in college. I'm an only child. My parents are divorced and I'm still an only child. They're married to other people. But I just tell people every day, I don't have to do this. This isn't work to me because I'm so blessed I've been able to do it at all levels. Like you said, I even coached a 12U team one time, which was very interesting. But my journey has brought me here. I was in Austin and now in San Antonio, and I'm just happy to share this gift of softball with as many people as I can.
Yeah, it's great having you on board. And then I read just the other night that you were the THSCA Regional Assistant Softball Coach of the Year.
Yes, sir. For Region 8, I was softball coach of the year. And my head coach is actually the first female in 90 years to be on the board of directors for THSCA. So we had a really big year last year. Yeah.
And you guys have a great relationship. Everything
Oh, we're best friends. Yeah. Yep. I always tell her God brought us together. So she's my best friend. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it makes coaching even more enjoyable when you have a situation like that, for sure.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe like your humble beginnings, how you started playing softball, maybe around what age you started, and who inspired you to play.
So on both sides, my parents, their siblings, from the guys and the girls, they all played softball, whether it was slow pitch or fast pitch. My godmother is actually the first African-American woman to play softball at Delta State University in Mississippi. So it was basically like we didn't have a choice. It was softball from the time we started, and I probably started when I was 6 or 7. And not very good at all. But my parents were patient with me. And then so in Mississippi, you can play varsity starting in the 7th grade because of the numbers are so small. We were like a 2A, 3A school. And the first time I tried out in the fall for slow pitch, I got cut. And I remember crying, and my dad was like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, you're going to have to get better, because the entire family plays softball. And so they would hit me balls for hours and hours and hours. And so when the spring came, I made varsity as a 7th grader, and I didn't play very much my first year, but I had to go. And it was a big learning curve. But I'm glad I kind of had that kind of beginning, because now in coaching and when I was in college, if I make a mistake or it's not 100% like I want it, I got cut playing. I tell my kids all the time, you're upset because you struck out? I got cut the first time I tried out for slow pitch. So that's kind of how that went about. And I played from 7th grade all the way through senior year. I was not planning on playing college softball. I wanted to go get a degree, go be a lawyer. And then I got to my junior year, and colleges and select teams started reaching out like, hey, you're pretty good. And I was like, oh, I guess. Because in Mississippi, like where I'm from North Mississippi, you would have to travel to Memphis or all the way to New Orleans to play. And so my parents were like, yeah, we're not doing that. So I played with like a league team, I guess. And then we grew into a select team. And I got the attention of a local junior college. It was a D1 JUCO that went to nationals every year. It was called Northeast Mississippi Community College. And I was like, I'll go on a visit. And I went and I loved it. And my best friend, who was my shortstop in high school, she was like, I'll go if you go. And I was like, okay, basically, like, what else are we going to do? And I was valedictorian in my high school. So school was like, I could go wherever I wanted to, but I got that love for softball. So we went and we played 2 years, and both of us, she and I, we were roommates, and we both were All-Americans while we were there. And then I had a few schools like say, oh, go to JUCO or go for 2 years, not 1 year, because I don't have a spot for you right now, but we'll come back to you. And so I kind of had this chip on my shoulder, like, no, like somebody's going to want me for what I offer right now. And so I played those 2 years. And junior college ball is a grind. You find out if you really want to play softball, but it was a good time. And then the coach at Mississippi Valley State University, it's a small Division I school in a town called Itta Bena, Mississippi. Jerry Rice played football there. I don't know if any of these girls will know who Jerry Rice is, but their parents might. He's the greatest wide receiver of all time. And so that coach kept coming. He kept coming to all my games. And I was like, let me go on a visit. And I'd been on other visits to smaller D1s or to D2s, and it just didn't feel right. And I, honest to God, did not enjoy my visit at Mississippi Valley, but I went home and I talked with my mom, and it was just something in me. He kept supporting me. The girls kept reaching out to me, and they won a lot. Like if you look up Mississippi Valley State softball, back in those years, like I know my senior year, we set records for HBCUs. And if you all don't know what that means a historically Black college and university. We were the first one to win multiple games in a regional. We went to regionals back to back. I think we won, not we, because I wasn't there 6 years, but during that era, 6 to 8 conference championships. And we would go play in Alabama. They went to Oregon one time. And it just really gave me that experience of being able to be in any room and talk softball with anybody. No matter that we went to JUCO and we went to a small D1, we still got the whole college experience, and it was awesome.
Well, it sounds like a terrific journey that you had there and the experience. So yeah, you kind of touched on the high school experience, and so what did you start off with? Like, what positions did you play? Maybe in your younger days, and then the high school, and then the college.
So because I wasn't very good, and I'm an outfield coach, so I try to break this stigma. Younger kids, they just throw you in the outfield. And that's where I was. And then 7th grade year, something happened to 8th grade year, something happened to our JV catcher, and they asked me to catch some games on JV, and I think I caught half an inning, and I was like, I need to go back to the grass. This is not it. And so I only ever played in the outfield. So all of my career, I played in the outfield.
And, we tell, especially our younger girls, and we'll probably have a few on tonight that are like, say, 10U, 12U age group.
Yeah.
And, we try to tell them when they're young that it's, you put your most athletic players in the outfield.
Yes.
I mean, they save games, they save runs, right?
And anytime anybody tells any of y'all that, oh, they put you in the outfield, they don't think you're very good, you tell them, look behind the outfield. Who's back there? Nobody. We are the last line of defense. So I feel like, besides the pitcher and the catcher, because they touch the ball every time, we're some of the most important people. We clean up the infield's messes. So and I've seen games. I'll tell you, I've had some outfielders. Without them, we would not have gone as far. I mean, they made some plays for their pitchers and their catchers that just were incredible. So don't ever let anybody tell you outfield's not a very important position.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so what was your high school team like? Was it a very good team? I know that you said you came from a pretty small school. Yeah,
we were a small 3A school, but we competed every year in slow pitch and in fast pitch. I think when I was there, we were a few rounds away from state. Every year I played, I know for sure, especially our fast pitch team, we would go 2 rounds deep, 3 rounds deep. And I think since I graduated in 2006, so it's been a while, but they asked me to come back and speak a few, like 10 years ago, and they either won a state championship or were close. I can't remember. It's been so long ago. So it's a very competitive program for how small it is. Yeah.
Cool. And then, so what was the experience like between, what you did in travel? So what you said it was more like a local team, and then it
Yeah.
ended up kind of developing into a select team. And what was that experience like?
It was awesome because it was almost like all of us brought our friends and was like, hey, I know your parents aren't going to drive you to Memphis or New Orleans. Y'all want to play with us? And we kind of like, our coach was kind of like, oh, y'all are kind of good. We could compete. And she started taking us out of state. And we compete. Now, we never won like a PGF or like we didn't go to Colorado and that kind of stuff. But there were some tournaments we'd go to in Florida, we'd go to in Montgomery, Alabama, or Georgia, and we would compete, and it was fun. It was fun. I always appreciated her for that, because she allowed coaches to see us where they never would have. We've never would have got exposure just playing at home, because nobody came to our small town.
Yeah, we're located in Lansing, Michigan, and I would say that most of the tournaments and stuff we play in are within a 2-hour driving radius. Every once in a while, we might, go out to northern Ohio or northern Indiana, but most of it's in the state of Michigan, and there's plenty of coaches in that area where you can be seen. So we tell our girls all the time, you don't need to go to a big national club to be seen and go to college and play ball.
And to speak to that, I can remember I coached college for 4 years. I went back to Mississippi Valley State and coached. And we would go to Colorado, Sparkler and Fireworks, and we would go to PGF. And we would spend the entire time, like before we would even go to the field, we knew where we were going, because it was so big. And there's nothing against those tournaments. They change a lot of people's lives. They helped our program tremendously when we were recruiting. But if I liked going to the field where there weren't all the coaches to recruit, because I knew there were kids that somebody might not see that I could get, and I saw something in. So you're exactly right. They don't have to, because sometimes I think this culture these days, like like the social media and all that, like if you're not out there, they think, oh, you won't get recruited. That's not true. That's not always true.
Yeah, I've heard that quite a bit from multiple college coaches, and
and
the travel and the amount of money people spend.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Is a little crazy. So you had your travel experience, and then you said that you kind of, was it just word of mouth for the recruiting process? That did you go visit a couple places first, and then you got positive feedback from those coaches? And
so we went on a few visits, me and my best friend, like to some D2 schools and D1 schools before I committed to the junior college. And the consensus we kept getting is, oh, we're already ahead recruiting. Could y'all go to this JUCO, this one particular JUCO? We know they compete, and come back. So that was our plan at first. But then when it was time for us to kind of like graduate, or not graduate, or finish our 2-year, we both had different options. And so the schools that invested in us and invested their time and come to see us, we kind of went those paths instead of the original journey. And that's okay. That's the beauty of the recruiting process. I mean, I graduated school and was supposed to go to law school, and I was like, I'm not doing that. That was my goal since I was in kindergarten, and I got done and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Nothing against lawyers. It wasn't for me.
So now, so you went through the travel, you got recruited, you ended up in college and playing ball. What do you think the biggest difference was between playing in high school, that transition from high school to college play?
Speed of the game. I will 100% say I thought I knew softball until I got to college, and then I got to D1 college, and things that you've naturally just done sometimes can feel a step behind if you haven't educated yourself, or your softball IQ hasn't grown much since you just executed like C-ball, all that. Yes, that's part of it, but you gotta like think ahead, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. Being on your own, whether you commute, whether you live in the dorm, you're an adult, but you're not an adult because you still have like guidelines and responsibilities. But just that freedom of making your own decisions and making sure you stay on track, that was a big difference because your mom's not there or your dad's not there or whoever, takes care of you isn't there. Everybody around you is talented. It's easy to feel like the big fish when you're in high school or maybe on your select team. You might be the best player, or there might be two of you. When you get to college, no matter what level, everybody's good. And everybody was recruited to come there. So sometimes I know for me, my head coach and I, we'd speak to our kids a lot about the mental part of the game. We would get performance anxiety sometimes because it's like, if I don't get this hit, there's 10 other people that can hit. Like I got, you know what I mean? Yeah. So that was a big difference as well.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, we can talk about that a little more here in a little bit. Yeah, and I'll hop to this part here. So we talked about that transition. We talked about the challenges and expectation. I'm sure time management was a thing when going to college and being able to handle that workload, because it's like a full-time job. For sure. And we do talk to our girls about that too. Just to have an understanding, that there's going to be weight training, there's going to be hours of practice, there's going to be study sessions to keep up with your grades. You're going to have travel for college.
Like you want me to go through like what a typical day will probably be like? So in off season, you might have weights at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. and strength and conditioning. Then you go eat, go shower. You probably have an 8, 10 o'clock, maybe an 11 o'clock class. If it's 2-a-days or what do you call it, individuals, where there's groups of 4 of you going at one time to practice, you might, if you play 2 different positions, you might have 2 different groups you have to go to. So that's another 2 hours. You might have an afternoon class. You might get time to go eat, shower, maybe take a nap. My favorite was to sneak a nap in there. And then study tables. A lot of coaches will make them mandatory, at least for the first semester, where everybody goes to the library or wherever you're study. They want you to study where there's access to computers and all that kind of stuff. And you're there for 2 hours. Like I know for us, when I coached, the better your grades were, the less time I make you stay. Like I'd be like, okay, well, you got to give me 3 days a week, 45 minutes with the team. It was a team bonding thing as well. But like if your grades were kind of like C or below, oh, you got to give me some extra hours. Because that's the most important thing, because I went to school, even though I was talented athletically, I went to school on an academic scholarship. So I could have tripped, fell, broke my arm the first day of practice, never played again. I still got my school paid for because I kept my grades up. So it is like that day seems like a lot, but there are people there also that will help you schedule out your day. You just have to follow the times and the plan.
Yeah, that sounds it sounds like right on track with what we've heard from other student athletes and some of the coaches that we spoke to. It's just and like you were mentioning before, there's girls that come in their freshman year and they feel a lot of pressure to perform, because if you're not hitting, a lot of times you won't get in the lineup, or maybe you're only DHing your first year. But it's also important to be able to play multiple positions and say, hey, coach, I can go in whatever you need me for. I can pinch run. I can do whatever. So that's why it's also important when we're, coaching at the travel level, we're trying to remind the girls, we want you to at least get some experience in at least 2 to 3 positions all the time and be working in practice in case something happens.
Right.
And it helps with your understanding of the game too, and what you got to do, where you got to be. It's the next man up mentality. So, but it's great having a coach on too, because you say the same things to your girls and us. It's great to have somebody reiterate or speak based on your experience for our girls to hear about it too.
You're validating that we say that as well, because one of the first games of our season this year, my starting shortstop got kicked in the head by a girl trying to steal a second. My third baseman, who has never played shortstop, had to go to shortstop. A girl that plays first base had to come in and play third base, and we got out of the inning. And I still to this day don't know how we did it, but people think sometimes me and my boss are crazy because we'll say, oh, we'll take, like right now I have an infielder and I'll say, oh, go take balls in the outfield. And she'll look at me like, I'm like, come on, just why we do front toss. She almost had to play outfield today, actually. Mm-hmm. And so if you are telling a coach, I only play second base, that's all I play. I don't play anything else. I'm not a good base runner. I don't DP or DH, that I just literally, I play second base. I can't move anywhere else. Well, if you're third or fourth on the depth chart, that means there's 3 or 4 people who are getting it done statistically better than you. Then you're kind of handcuffing your coach. But if you're a kid that says, coach, where do you need me to go? Where do you need me to go? Now, I might not be great at it, but I promise you I'll work at it. Then anytime they're like, oh gosh, something happened, what are we going to do? Or, oh, I need a hit right here. Or, oh, I need to switch up the lineup, right? They will call your name every time. And no one's asking you to be perfect. They're just asking you to try.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Give me 100% effort. Yep, it's all the intangibles that you look for from all the kids, and that's what college coaches are looking for too when they're coming to games and they're watching the girls. And you just don't know who's watching you, so you got to be prepared.
Correct.
You want to get scratched off the list. I've heard Jackie Joseph say that from Michigan State.
Yeah.
So you played in college, and then you decided to come back and be an assistant, or were you like a graduate student assistant?
Yeah. So when I graduated, I took I actually moved to Florida for like a month or two with my cousin, because I literally had no idea. I was like, I don't want to go to law school. I don't know what I want to do. And I had some friends that were going to start graduate school at Mississippi State. And so I was like, oh, I'll just go back to school, because I enjoy school. I was like, I'll just go back to school. And my mom made me sit down and she said, list out the things that would make you happy in a job. And I said, oh, being able to travel, sports, maybe teaching. Like, I just started naming all the characteristics. She was like, why don't you coach? I'm not really sure what we're doing here. I was like, okay. And so I went back to grad school at Mississippi State, and Van Studeman had just become the new head coach. She's actually here at UTSA now. When I met Van, she was coaching at Alabama. She was pitching coach at Alabama when I was in school. And my old coach, he said, go in her office right now. He said, listen to me, go in her office right now. And you say, coach, welcome to Mississippi State. My school's paid for, because my dad was in the military, so I didn't have to pay for that either, thank God. And he said, just ask her, can I volunteer, be around the team? I want to be a coach one day. And I went like 3 times and she wasn't there. I said, I don't care. I'm just going to keep going. And so I walked in one day and she was like, yeah, I remember you. And like, we chatted, and she was like, I'll reach out to you when it's time. Well, a few weeks went by and I just kept bugging her. And she let me, like, I told her, I said, I don't need any money, any of that. And she allowed me to be around that team for 1.5 years, I think it was, and learned from her and the other coaches. And when I finished my master's, my old coach called and said, hey, I need an assistant, and I need my first assistant to be you. And I was like, okay. And so that's when I started coaching at Mississippi Valley in 2010. And wait, was it? No, I graduated in 2012. And I was there until 2016. And I had a great time. It taught me a lot about this game. And just like what type of coach I wanted to be.
Yeah. So do you think that your perspective and that your style of coaching is similar to Van's?
I think that the way that I would always watch her and I'd say, how does she even think it? Like, how does she even notice that? And so I started like watching how a lot of the times she wouldn't say anything. You might think she wasn't like paying attention, but she was. And I said, okay, I need to stop talking so much. Because as a new coach or a young coach that just finished playing, you're like, okay, go here, do that. I don't know why we can't do this. Come on, we like go. Because that's what you're used to, like as a player, like going. And I just started like watching, like maybe I should be more observant. Maybe I should watch this kid do this 3 or 4 times and then go talk to him and not tell them what to do, but ask them a question. Hey, what do you
Mhm.
feel when you do that? Like that was one of the biggest switches that or one of the biggest things I learned from her as a coach, you know, like picking their brains and not just this is what you do and no reason why.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard some other coaches say that, and I've seen that from multiple people. So that way that they're thinking about, exactly what you're saying about the field.
Mm-hmm.
That they're able to understand that and then make their own adjustments. That's the goal.
Yes.
So that way they, when they're at the plate, what's a good swing? What did you do here with your mechanics
Mm-hmm.
or whatnot? So no, that hits home for sure. So talking about your coaching and that you coached college ball for 4 years there, and you got that great experience. What's the biggest difference between? And I know we kind of talked about this before. You said it was like a grind. I mean, it is like you're fully committed and you are working nonstop, tirelessly.
12 months out of the year, pretty much. Yeah.
And I
If
know
you
that
want to be good now, if you want
yeah,
to be good. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So now you made the transition from coaching in college and you went back and you followed your passion wanting to teach
Mm-hmm.
and you get the opportunity to coach. So I mean that's great. You got two of the things that you were looking for,
Mm-hmm.
graduating from school. And I think there's no bigger place to make an impact than somebody than that 14 years old through 18 in high
Mm-hmm.
school. It's amazing. My two daughters, one's graduated in her freshman year of college, and the other one's a junior this year.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing that transition from a young girl to a woman,
Mm-hmm.
in that short span of time, and just
Yeah.
the athleticism, just how everything just starts to click. So a lot of it, I would say coaching on my end is how do you motivate, how do you create a positive atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
for them, an environment that they want to be in and enjoy. So what are the kind of things that you do as a high school coach and Coach Wolf that you're coaching with? What kind of atmosphere do you guys create, and how do you motivate your girls to become passionate and love the game?
So one of the best things we ever did is we used to coach together in a school outside of Austin as well called Elgin High School. And we asked our kids after the end of a season, one time we gave them a questionnaire. We said, basically like they critiqued us. And it was structured, like it had like 8 to 10 questions on it. And some of the feedback was hard to receive because sometimes you know your intention, but it's all about perception and intention. Like my intentions may have been good, but you may have perceived in my tone or my delivery, or maybe I don't know you well enough to know how to speak to you. That's one of the biggest things. So we took that information and it made us reflect as coaches, as people. And we said, okay, if we're going to do this, let's go. Like, let's listen to them. It wasn't X's and O's. It wasn't like, oh, we need to do more of this at practice. It wasn't that. It was communication and what they needed from us as people, not just their coaches. And so we're big on getting to know our kids. Like, I don't just, like, we're big on say good morning. How was your morning? How's your brother? How's your cat or your plant? I don't know. Like, we started like pushing ourselves because coming from college, like I was afraid. I was like, these are not grown women anymore. These are teenagers. I need to like keep arms linked. Like I'm the teacher, I'm the grown up. Like, but no, even though they're younger, they still want to get to know you to some extent and you to get to know them, because when you make a call in a pressure situation, they'll trust you and they'll trust themselves. Or like if tensions get high and people are in the red, you still know how to communicate to each other because you've learned certain things about each other. We also made our program write down the pillars of what they want to be known for. And one of their pillars was family. And so when we start not behaving as family because we're emotional, we have talks. Hey, okay, now we're family and family's supposed to love each other. How are we gonna work through this? And so it allows for we grind it out. Like our kids, like we strength and condition hard. We run a lot. productive running, like things to do with base running, strength and mobility. We added a lot of that this year. So they really, people, if you watch a game of ours, you'll see me and Amanda wearing, or Coach Wolf wearing fanny packs with like candy in them. You'll see the music going. Like it looks like a party, but Monday through Friday or non-game days, especially in the fall, it is a grind. There are days where they're like, Coach, I'm so tired. I'm like, okay, well, go get in the cold tub because we're doing it again tomorrow. And they thrive off of it now. Like today was a really hot day during the game, and you could tell they were like, golly, I'm dying. And so we were like, okay, it's spring break, but what are y'all gonna do this weekend? They said, Coach, we're gonna run because we're tired. Like we gotta go, because they know our playoffs run all the way to the first weekend in June. They got to make it through season and then 5 weeks to make it to state. And so they know. And I think just laying it out and saying this is the standard. Nobody has to be perfect, but we all have to be striving for the standard. And it takes time. It does.
No, I love that. So I know that we tried to, kind of build a culture in our travel organization. I've taken over for the last 4 years, but I started coaching at, 10U and started with my daughters, and then it went without my daughters. Now it's back to one of my daughters again.
Yeah.
But you love all of them like they're your kids.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't matter, what kid it is. And I've never had a problem with a player. It's more maybe the message that the parents are given, or a parent disconnect. But I've always found that most of the girls, they want to work with you. They want to get better.
Yeah.
That's why they're there. But we try to build that culture, and it is hard. And trying to have that consistency across the board. So yeah, I love hearing about what other people do and how they look at it from their perspective as a coach. And I know you talked about mental toughness, and that's a huge aspect. And I know that, like, once they get to college, a lot of the colleges, either they read a book together or they do certain exercises or tests together, and more social experiments to kind of work them through, hey, you're having problems with failure here, this is your challenge, but you're not going to be defined by this failure, and how to get through it. What about mental health awareness? Do you guys, I know that yeah,
are big on that, because she played at Fresno State, and she's like I think Amanda's 3 years older than me. So we both played in that era where I don't care that you have a mental block right now. We're not talking about our feelings. Go. And if you can't go, I'll get somebody else to do it. And nobody obviously blatantly said that to us. Yeah. But also no one was sitting us down being like, okay, I love you and I know you, and I can tell that something is blocking you right now from being able to do this sport you love. What's going on right now? She and I both have, being teachers, one of the downsides of being teachers is you don't only have athletes, you have regular students, and you see a lot of battles won and lost with mental health, if that makes sense. So it is very, very, very important with us. We have a rule, like, if we know a kid's upset, like, we don't let them leave until, like, hey, come here, let me talk to you. Like, what's going on? And even if they don't have to even share with you, like, the details of it, it's just knowing that you are checking on them and you care about them. And we've grown so close to our kids where we can feel it. Like, something's going on with the team. Let's meet. Now, one thing about us, we will meet. Hey, if something weird, I'm not going to allow it, because this book I read about communication basically reiterated this. Like, when there's something going on with a kid or a team, talk about it, because the lag time creates space for everybody to make assumptions, for, I don't know, things to get worse. So talking is a big thing. And then we do read a book. We are reading The Coffee Bean right now. It's just like one pager. It's about that book big. I'll have to look up his name. He was in prison and he wrote this book. And it's crazy how every single day, like, I think there's like 100 days and we're on like day 40 now. Every single day, Like if there's an issue with a kid or in the program or something, it always matches. Or if energy is not good that day, it always matches. And we tell them all the time, guys, we didn't pick this. This is just, and they've bought into it. Like if we accidentally are reading the wrong day, they're like, no, we already read that. Next page. Come on. Or they'll say, Coach, we didn't read our book today. And it took them like 2 years to like buy. I think the first book we chose like 2 years ago, it was too long. Like we were having them sit there and it was almost like a book study. And they were like, oh my God, why do we have to read this? But just a quick, like, you know what I'm saying? And it just gives them words to pull from mentally, like when stuff gets tough. We also create a lot of opportunities in practice to fail and to normalize failing. Because if you can hit the ball 3 out of 10 times, the major league says you're successful hitting 300. And you have never seen a person go 1,000 for a whole entire season. Everybody fails. It's normal. It's what you do through your failure. And so we do things like when we're doing like our front toss or our off the machine or live pitching, we don't just hit front toss. Like there's scenarios every time. Sometimes there's base runners, different defenses. Like there's one they love to do called pass the bat. So we break the lineup into fours, the top third, the second third, the middle third, and the last third. And we say, okay, it's a competition. We get to say outs and all that. Defense make a play. You hit until off a front toss and see who scores the most runs. And they literally, we have to say, guys, calm down, because they get competitive about it. And even if they didn't win the day before, they're like, when's the next time we're playing? Because I'm going. Like I am going. And so we also borrowed a drill from our baseball team. Yeah. They're really good too. Our middle infielders said, Coach, we want to turn a lot of double plays this year. They told us that last year. So we went to baseball practice and they were doing this drill. And I'm going to tell you something. It's called the doubles competition. And the first time I saw it, I said, there's no way. And we brought it to practice. And the first day, like our infield was throwing up their hands like, and we were like, okay, bring it in. What are you going to have to do right now extra to make this work? We turned the most double plays this program has ever turned last year. They turned like 4 in one game in the playoffs last year. We turned 1 today, and they crave it now. You'll hear them tell the pitcher, hey, give me a double play ball. Let's get her right now. And so when they've been pushed like that and break down and practice, when it's game time, that's why we have so much fun at the game, because we know our kids have like grinded it out. And so it's time to have fun on game day.
Yeah, you'll have to send me that book you guys are reading, and maybe a couple of those drills too. I'd love
of course.
That. And that's what we all do. We all go to the conferences and listen to other coaches, and you kind of take bits and pieces from everybody that you can use and apply it to your team and help one another out.
Yeah.
So my last question for you before we open it up for questions, I saw that you were a speaker at one of the conferences, and I don't know, was that the THSCA?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about loyalty. Was that the subject?
Well, the subject was keys to being what's it called? Invaluable assistant coach. Yeah. They wanted me to speak to the assistant coaches because I'd done it at all levels. And just basically like loyalty, because before I do a talk, like I'll ask other coaches, kind of like how we're doing here, like pick people's brains. And I asked a lot of my head coach friends, and they said loyalty is number one. And I think that can go into our kids, our players as well, because like I know in Texas, say your high school was down the road in San Antonio, like 20 miles from, it doesn't matter, anywhere in the state of Texas, right? And you cannot move for athletic purposes. Like if you told somebody, yeah, I'm moving because I know they'll let me play over there or I'll start over there, our UIL, which is like our NCAA, will block it. Like you can't move for athletic benefit, I guess. So it that reinforces kids, you got to stay and be loyal, because I know we have the transfer portal. We didn't have all that when I was in school, or how easy it was hard to transfer back when I was in school. Like you had to go through a lot. And I think it's a good thing for kids who literally make a decision early. They get there and it just won't work. But I like to have kids, like one of my kids, I used to coach her in 14 year. She went to college and she texted me at Thanksgiving. She said, I'm coming home. I said, baby, give it till Christmas. Give it a year. And she loves it now. Sometimes we have to be the example of loyalty. Like all your coaches, if you're in charge, you don't have to be a blind follower, but everybody needs to look like we're rowing in the same way. And then if we disagree, we disagree away from the masses and we disagree respectfully. Me and Amanda are best friends. And sometimes we don't agree, but we never fall out because we know how to speak to each other. And so I think me talking about that loyalty piece can be for coaches and for players.
And that's funny that you mentioned that. Do you know Alyssa Denham?
Yeah. I know that name. Yeah.
Yeah, she was on with us for a Chalk Talks earlier this
Yeah.
year, and I've been friends with her for about 2 years now, and I know she's at BSN, so we're starting to work together.
Yeah.
But she made that same analogy, you know, everybody needs to row in the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that talk with one of our coaches in the program because he was struggling through some changes, and it's like, hey, you know, it's going to be okay. We're all going to be, you know, working together and supporting one another, and it's a family atmosphere. You know, because you know we can't all be on an individual island and be successful. We got to kind of depend on each other and help each other out. But you know, I thought that was an interesting. I guess it was just the slide that was up at the conference, the loyalty slide, and wanted to ask you about it and see, you know.
Yeah, I can send you that PowerPoint too when I send you that book and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, you know, you're one of my favorite guests, and the time just goes by way too fast.
Yeah.
Especially that we have a coach on, and I know we have a few coaches from our program also listening in tonight as well. So right now we're going to go ahead and open it up for questions. Coaches, you know, I encourage you guys to ask questions as well. And just make sure you unmute.
As a coach, how do you inspire your kids?
In the game or just in life or in general?
A little of both.
So the first thing is, like I was saying earlier, getting to know what things they like, finding out why they play. Simply, I know that sounds like cliche. Everybody's like, what's your why? What's your why? I would ask a kid, when this game is hard, the worst day, you're 0 for 5, you booted 10 balls, 5 errors, base running mistakes, your worst day. What is it about this game, or what is the reason that you get up the next day and do it again? And have a real conversation. Like, don't give me a fluff answer. Like, because everybody likes to say, oh, to have fun. Yeah, this game is fun. But what makes you not quit on the hard days? And then once you kind of like crack that open, they start to share more about like their goals in this game or their goals in life, and just keep feeding. It can be as simple as them saying, oh, I want to be an artist one day, randomly at practice while they're throwing. Hey, you painted anything good lately? Or like, this is silly, and I used to do it with my college kids and I do it with my high school kids. If a kid is down in the dumps about softball, I'll randomly just walk up to them, like, or call time before they hit or something. I'll say, hey, do you believe in dinosaurs? And they'll say, yeah, of course. Like, they're in our history books or science books. And I'll say, well, if you can believe in something you've never seen, you can believe in yourself. And I know that sounds corny, but I use that all the time. If nothing else, it makes them laugh. You know what I'm saying? And anything to make them feel comfortable in their skin will help them to get to where they want to go.
And
thank you.
Stacia is one of our coaches that she coached at the 17, 18U level. And then she took a break with her family for a couple of years. And now she's coaching at 10U.
Oh,
so
awesome.
So she's seeing the full circle here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not easy going from older kids back to younger kids.
That was one of my biggest fears. I was like, I'm going from college to high school. Is this going to be the same? But it's good. It's good.
Lord teaches you patience.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Anybody else?
I'm gonna have to pick on somebody if somebody else doesn't chime in. I know Louis is on, and he's my other 18U coach, and both Louie and I, we put our heads together and we talk about the recruiting process, frequently. And it seems like there's a trend, at least here locally in the area, that there's a few travel programs that the coach or the person that runs the travel program is associated with one college program. And then they're kind of using it as a feeder program for that college. And I don't think it necessarily, I mean, it's great the kids get to play, but they don't give them the opportunity to really see the benefits or the big picture of all the opportunities that are out there. They bring them in early and they tell them, hey, I can get you a scholarship if you come play travel ball with me. And it's just, to me, when we talk to the kids, we say, you're the one that's going to earn the scholarship. We're not going to get you a scholarship.
Right.
So we have to work for it every day. So what's your experience with on the recruiting side now that you're in high school, helping to get players into colleges? What do you think the most successful route is or process?
So when I was a recruit, when I was coaching college, there were certain programs or coaches that we had built a relationship with that we could trust, if that makes sense. Because sometimes when your job's on the line and you have to pick women to win, you sometimes are afraid to venture out to a program you might not know anything about, or but you have this one program and say it's hang tough fast pitch. I know they produce winners, respectful girls, their grades are good. Like, it's easy to stick with that, right? But for us, the looks that our kids get from colleges is because of some of the relationships. Now, 100% is the work that they did from the time they were kids. It's all them. But there will be college coaches who are our friends, or we have friends that know them, or we've built, because we go to college practices sometimes just to learn. So relationships, they'll kind of like, while you're at their practice, or they'll give you a call and be like, what about that girl? And I'm like, oh yeah, but what girls need to know is when they talk to us as high school coaches, they want to know about your character, and they want to know, will your family fit into theirs? Because they already know you can play ball. If they asked about you, they already know you can play ball. When they talk to your high school coach, I think that's why we sometimes get a bad rap, like we can't get kids recruited. But if one of my friends called me and I was like, no, her attitude, I've tried to work on it for 3 years, she's disrespectful, they're going to say, coach, don't say anything else. Because as my friend, I can't lie to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's something as simple as I'm like, yeah, her mom, she shoves her bag to her mom and says, carry my bag. Or like, she never has her uniform clean or ready. Like, she never has this, has that. She doesn't do the sign for bunt when I ask her to. Coach, don't say anything else. Don't worry about it. She can ball, but I can't deal with that. Like, I got to move on to the next. So honestly, these girls just got to keep working. They know, I tell kids all the time, you've been doing this since you were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. The skill is not the issue. It's what's the edge you're going to have over somebody else who has the same skill level as you. That means, are you willing to do an extra rep? Are you willing to run harder than she's running? Can you beat somebody out? Are you mentally tougher than she is? Because everybody can play ball at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't stress too much about that feeder pattern thing, because that's going to happen. Because I know when I used to coach, it was certain people I knew I was going to go see because I knew what they produce. But high school coaches who have relationships with college coaches, they are going to ask them about you as a person, your character, who you are when nobody's looking, what kind of kid you are. And so I would just continue to build relationships with college and high school coaches. One of our pitchers, she's going to like New Mexico, and her coach is connected to Amanda through it's wild. I promise y'all, the softball world is so crazy. Somebody will know you through 3 to 4 or 5 other people. And all you got to do is be the standard, show the way, go the way, and do what you're supposed to. I promise you, because they're going to want to know about your character.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the broad range that we have with so many different colleges. And
yeah,
I've had those calls too, just asking about a player, and it's important because if you lie, or if you put somebody in a different light and then they get there, then it ruins your credibility and the opportunity for the next kid coming up.
Correct.
So So yeah, it pays to, to obviously be honest. We had Jessica Bograkis. She's
Mhm,
a top pitcher that used to be at Michigan State here,
mhm.
and she did some training with some of our pitchers, and she was recruiting a girl down in Battle Creek, south of here, and they were in their state districts or regionals, and she was watching them play, and there was the pitcher, and she was basically watching the pitcher, and the pitcher was being very successful through the games that she was playing, and she was waiting to see her reaction and how she acted when she
Right,
failed, because that's what she wanted to know. She wanted to learn
right.
about the character of the player, and she was watching her with her family and everyone, and unfortunately, the game came down to, I believe it was tied. It was tied in the seventh inning, and there was a runner on third, and the girl hit a pop up out into the left field, and the left fielder dropped the ball,
Mm.
and the runner scored, and they lost the game. But she said she watched the pitcher, and the pitcher immediately ran out to the outfield and hugged her outfielder.
Aw.
Yeah, so she said that's the kind of player that I want to have come to our
Yeah.
building. That sold me on her, not how well she did over the weekend, that she was a good teammate. And
Mm,
I try to convey that story to our girls, and just think about all these other parts of the game. It's not just about you.
mhm.
You can contribute in a lot of different ways to
Yes,
your team. So
yes.
that's always a story that sticks with me. So
I like that one. I'm gonna have to tell Amanda that one tomorrow. Yeah, because it is hard, especially for pitchers, because pitching is hard, and if
yeah,
they've been fighting for a whole game, it's hard.
yeah. And you see the opposite too with it depends on the kids, but
Mm,
sometimes pitchers get really frustrated if their team isn't backing
yeah.
them up on the field, and so it's really good to hear about a positive situation like that, and
Mhm.
that really helped her get recruited by Michigan State. So
Yeah.
so we're gonna ask again, guys. Any other questions from the group? Quiet today. I have one more question that we can end it on. And again, I really appreciate your time tonight. Love
Of
having you
course.
on. And again, just not enough time. That's the biggest problem tonight. What do you think about our chalk talks? Doing this format.
I think that when you can have your players and your coaches, and this is for any program, just sit and listen to other coaches, other players. Everybody's probably saying the same thing. Like you're probably saying the same things to your players and coaches, but sometimes you have to hear others word it differently. Or the way I like to think of it is I like talking to other coaches because you might be able to say something in a way that I can't convey it to my kids right now, but the way that you say it, they might get it. So I think it's awesome. I mean, I'll tell anybody, I am not too old to learn, listen, from kids to coaches, it doesn't matter. So this is awesome.
I appreciate it. I feel the same way, that anytime the kids, and we do a lot of internal functions with all of our coaches involved, as well as
Mhm.
we try to bring outside coaches in. And
Mhm.
it doesn't matter to me who they hear it from to get better, just that they get better. Because
Right.
like you said, it might click. My perfect example is my daughter's hitting coach.
Mm.
I've been telling her dozens and dozens of times to do something, and he's in the cage and he words it a little bit differently, and it just clicks. And then all of a sudden she understands what he's saying, she understands how it feels, and then now she's able
Mhm.
to make those adjustments, and I'm happy. I'm not frustrated,
Yeah.
how long it took, but she got there and she heard it from the right person, and it made a difference. So that's the
Yeah.
most important thing.
Absolutely.
Well, I know you have an early flight tomorrow, so we really appreciate your time tonight, and spending it with us. And I'll definitely follow up with you on those items that we talked about. And
Yeah.
best of luck, with the rest of your season here
Thank you
going
so
into
much.
June.
And thank y'all for having me.
Yep,
Thank you for your
absolutely.
time.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Yep,
We
thank you.
appreciate
Good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.